DMT Infinity.
He's gonna fucking train your brain.
Shout out to DMT Infinity.
This is a collaboration with DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity, you crazy motherfucker. This is our local astronaut. DMT Infinity is our local astronaut. You know, right now, NASA has a couple guys in space, and who cares what they're doing, because DMT Infinity is the real astronaut. This boy is steady blasting off, if you know what I'm saying.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity.
DMT Infinity. 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 Infinity.
So before the show, we were briefly going over ginger root. Can you explain to everybody what exactly ginger root is and how it affects the mind and body?
Ginger root seems to help many people with nausea from how it antagonizes a serotonin receptor, with that being the 5-HT3 receptor. And apparently there's a connection there with cannabinoid receptor activity. So I've actually found something that is groundbreaking research for people that are actually allergic to THC. And I just don't get the credit for it, apparently. Have you ever heard of this? It's a disease called endocannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome.
No. How rare is that?
Well, it's got to be pretty rare because THC is so useful for nausea. But there are certain individuals that have an allergy to it, and they projectile vomit whenever they use THC.
Is this something that was discovered recently? Because, I mean, people have been using THC for fucking God knows how long. So when was this discovered? What was the first case of it? Or, like where did this come from? Because people have been doing it for so long. Why have I never heard of this before? And why have people throughout generations never heard of this? Is it just that rare?
I guess it's pretty rare. I would assume it is, because there is not much research that's been looked into. But it seems to me that it is linked to 5-HT3 serotonin receptor activity from my findings on my YouTube channel. So that will tell you right there that it allows for the negative effects of nausea to subside.
So you personally, what is the highest dose of THC that you've consumed in an edible?
Highest dose of THC in an edible. I have not ever had a legitimate trip of THC like I've wanted it to be. And it's really a shame that I've not been able to have the legitimate trip that I was wanting. Because I've heard of people, tripping on THC to the point where they're, tripping for, it might be like days. Have you ever heard of people like tripping on edibles for days?
Oh, absolutely. Whenever I consume Mitra, and I'd consumed about 10 grams, and I consumed 420 grams of THC in a brownie, I was high for about 2 or 3 days. And that was pretty fucking amazing. I was also pretty drunk too. If y'all haven't seen my live stream from a 420 milligram edible experience, go check that out.
To touch on what was talked about earlier, 5-HT3 serotonin receptor activity seems to mediate CB1 cannabinoid receptor activity. So it's like there's that link with how if the 5-HT3 receptor mediates cannabinoid receptor activity. Well, no, actually, it would be the other way around. That would be how somebody would have the endocannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, because they would be using THC, and that would activate the 5-HT3 receptor, which is an emetic response.
Fascinating. Personally, I think it would be it would be terrible to have that. I absolutely love cannabis. I've been using cannabis since I was 12 years old. If you haven't seen my video where I'm talking about my first time consuming cannabis, go check that out. And it completely changed my life. It changed my perspective on pretty much everything. It made me rethink everything that I thought about drugs up to that point, and it showed me that not all drugs are the same, that cannabis and heroin are two completely different substances, and just because they're both called drugs doesn't mean that they do the same thing or have the same effects on the mind and body. And it just made me a much more open-minded person and made me think deeply about things that I'd never thought about my entire life, and it made me rethink the kind of person that I was, and was the first step in me becoming somebody who wanted to truly dissolve my ego for the first time.
So, I just want to get this out of the way. I just want to bring notice to this because it is very important to take note that I've actually given to people that have this allergy to THC a method of treating their allergy to THC to where it doesn't affect them the same way if they are using a 5-HT3 antagonist. As long as they are using that would take away what is fueling their allergy.
Absolutely fascinating discovery. I think that experimenting with things like this are very important for many different reasons, but one reason also being is the fact that, especially in illegal states, there aren't enough people, especially highly trained professionals, active to these very important subjects. And it is just one reason why these sort of plants should be made legal. That way we have highly trained professionals looking into it, but because we don't, we have people like us who are actually taking time out of our lives to do experiments with these things and actually figure out what works and what doesn't and what causes what to happen. So that's amazing. And if any of you out there watching are interested in being part of this, then do it. I mean, make YouTube videos, make videos on Facebook, make videos on cocoscope.com where they don't censor you, and just anywhere, man. Write blogs, do something, make documentaries. I mean, this is very, very important, not only to the cannabis community, but to the psychedelic community, to the spiritual communities, and to all of these different communities. And I'm going to change the subject just a little bit, but there's something else that I want to touch on. Whenever it comes to the topic of Satanism, aside from the fact that a lot of people think that all Satanists are devil worshippers, what do you think that the biggest misconception about Satanists are, or is?
Well, I would say that Satanism is not necessarily worship to Satan. It's actually philosophy.
Absolutely.
It's not even a religion. it's supposed to be looking at moral principles based on satanic values.
Absolutely. The way that I like to describe it to people is that it is literally Christianity without the contradictions. That is what Satanism is, and not all Satanists are devil worshippers. Those are two completely different things.
Basically, it's looking at, biblical scriptures from a satanic perspective. Just, that's it. Satanism. Just to see exactly what the logic is that goes into any of whatever happens.
Let's look at one of God's many 10 commandments, right? Let's just take one of them, for example. Thou shalt not worship any other God before me. First of all, let me just go ahead and say that is quite egotistical to say. That is quite a statement. Thou shalt not worship any other God before me. Now let's take one of Lucifer's 8 commandments. Thou shalt not harm children. Where the fuck is that in God's many 10 commandments? Did he not have room for thou shalt not harm children because he was too busy worrying about other people worshiping another God? To me, I personally think that the Christian God is the metaphorical representation of the human ego. If anything, the entity that is called God in the Christian Bible, that is a demonic force. That is not some all-loving God. If anything, that is the devil. They say the greatest lie the devil ever told was proving he doesn't exist. I say bullshit. I say the greatest lie the devil ever told was proving that he was God and now all Christians worship him.
Satanism is not necessarily devil worship. Like, I guess people would look at it in that way because
there's the word Satan in it,
yeah.
But it really isn't. It is not devil worshiping.
And if you look at the translation of different words, like what is it, like Lucifer, light bearer, and I think
Morning Star.
Yeah, or like Satan might be the accuser, right?
Something like that. What it really boils down to is the fact that because they believe, other people have to believe because they need something called confirmation bias. Because they want other people to believe this, that way they have more reason to believe it themselves. That is what it really boils down to, because they are not comfortable believing this all by themselves. If they didn't have millions of people across the globe that also believed in this, it would make them even more uncomfortable to believe in this. So they would try and get people to believe in it. That is what it really boils down to. They don't want to believe in this all by themselves. They need that confirmation bias.